And welcome back. It is Kenya, and we are back with our Astro Self Care Sunday. And this week, we're bringing you Sagittarius energy, which is the current energy of the sun right now. We are currently in Sagittarius season. So if you are a Sag, that's the short name for it. If you are Sag, you want to tune in. Or if Sagittarius is your moon or rising, you really want to tune in. Let's say it's not. Let's say you have no idea. Still tune in because I bet you you've heard something about Sagittarius, especially if you're tuning on here. Okay. So, again, my name is Kenya. I am here every Sunday bringing this pre recorded video to you. If you are new, welcome and make sure you are subscribing. So, hit the subscribe. Make sure you also hit the bell. I don't have all the little videos and things for you to just listen and just do that, right? Um, if you're already a subscriber, thanks for coming back. It's good to have you back. And make sure you are sharing this video. And more than anything, make sure you're liking. I know you hear that all the time on YouTube. It is very true. The more likes we have, the more we get into the algorithm. So, Sag. So, if you're new and you're like, okay, so what do you do? What do you do? Those of you who already have been here, tell them, what do we do? I know this isn't live. This is what I do every week. Right now, we're doing a series where we're going through each zodiac sign, and we're actually getting close to going through all 12. But we are on the ninth sign, Sagittarius. And what I do is I tell the important traits and characteristics of the energy of that sign. Then I talk about the high frequency, meaning the things that are very productive and very valuable about that energy, and very wonderful about that energy. And then I go into the lower frequency, which are those aspects that are a bit challenging. They can be a bit unproductive, that can cause issues. And then a lot of times the stereotypes are around, okay, of that energy. And then it is Self Care Sunday. So at the very end, I go through a list of ways, if Sagittarius is your sun sign, moon sign, or your rising, things you can do to better take care of yourself, okay, and take care of the energy that Sagittarians carry and exude, okay? Sagittarius is not one of my top three, but my Mercury is Sag and my Neptune is Sag. So these are kind of difficult placements, for Sag. And so I relate a lot to Sagittarius mainly because of my Mercury being that, and because Mercury is how we think and how we communicate. So there's so much activity within our Mercury energy. I connect a lot to a lot of the Sagittarian things. Okay. And it sits in the part of my chart that, deals with a lot of how I do my daily life and how I do my health and so forth. So I can relate. All right. So let's dig in. I always keep my notes. Y'all know I be reading. I try to keep these under 30 minutes so you can have a life on your Sunday. So let me pull my notes and see what are we talking about. So Sagittarius. Da, 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 da. I want to check one more thing here before I'm just talking on and talking on and talking on to you guys. Yeah, here we go. All right. So Sagittarius mantra is I understand. I say these mantras because I think that they automatically begin to give you a clue as to the energy that the sign really exudes and the power of it. So I understand. That says a lot. Okay. The dates traditionally are November 22nd through December 20th. Depending on the time of day, the year, so forth, there can be some cuspy November 21st or December 21st. But for the most part, November 22nd through December 20th is considered Sag. The symbol is the archer, half man, half horse. That's another kind of powerful visual to give you an idea of the energy of Sag. Element is fire. Its modality is mutable. And remember, what mutable means is it's dispersing its understanding, dispersing its learning. So Sag is often very common for the teacher, okay? Those who teach in some kind of way, because there's understanding, but there's also this wanting to get the information out, okay? It's ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is that big planet that's always it's wanting to, it's considered a beneficent or a more, nice, good kind of planet energy, and that it symbolizes our fortune and our abundance. But we're going to talk about planets later in some more self-care Sunday, and you will learn how Jupiter can be quite tricky, because wherever it expands it. Okay. So if there's a low frequency thing happening, it will expand more of that. So it can be an overindulgent energy. So think about that with Sag. It's actually ruled by that. Okay. It rules the ninth house, and it is opposite to Gemini. Okay. So I will say this about Sag. Everything that I'm about to say to you, Sagittarius ultimately is a very buoyant and positive energy. Okay. It's definitely an energy of the glass is half full, a very optimistic, again, very light and buoyant, and it's fire in the sense that it's very activated of positivity, very activated in that. So you want to keep that in mind. And so if you think about, if I have this Sagittarian energy that likes to be buoyant, positive, activated, optimistic, what kind of care do I need to tend to that to keep that alive, right? To keep that energy in its high frequency. So, in its high frequency, a variety of things, but I'm going to just go over some of them. A need to feel space, okay? To feel space. We don't just want like pause. It's like, let's feel it. Let's feel it. It's a need to also kind of prove things, because again, if you have this idea of I understand, there's a need to want to have something proven, a need to want things to be validated, okay? A need for there to be perspective and understanding, and really a bigger picture understanding. Probably one of the stronger characteristics of Sagittarian energy that can be one of its lower frequency, has to be very careful, is that it thinks in broad pictures. And so when it's time to get down to the very details and the minutia, Sag has a harder time settling there. It likes to see how is this going to impact the world? What is the overall point? Okay, that's a very Sagittarian space. It's very active because it's fire. It's also very adaptable. Okay, and that's probably one of the main also components of Sag, how it differs from its fellow fire signs, where Leo is that fixed, I just going to shine in this moment here. And Aries is that initiator and get it going and go for it and let's go. Where Sag is like, okay, we're going to carry it out and push it out in the world, which means I've got to be adaptable depending on the setting that it's in. Very adventurous. Sag is definitely the traveler, the wanting to go far places, explore, experience. Again, the experience is so because it's this need to have perspective and this need to have understanding. So that's where that's coming from. If you hear, I think a lot of people will hear the Sagittarian is this great explorer, and that is, or traveler, and that's what it's about. It's to have perspective from a wide, broad point. Okay. Now, again, if you are new to this channel, remember, or let me let you know, you don't remember because you're new. Please understand, if you're new to astrology, all of us have every single sign in us. Okay. Astrology is not this thing where you're a Gemini and that's it. You're a Sagittarius, that's it. No, that's actually not how astrology works at all. We actually have every single sign in us. It just, depending on the time we were born, the position the planets were in, will dictate where the sign shows up in our life and in our energy and how we demonstrate it and receive it and portray it. Okay. So it's very important to just keep remembering that each week, because I don't want you to feel like, oh, well, I don't have Sag, so it doesn't really, no, you do. You do. Somewhere, all these things I'm talking about, it exists. The way that you better understand that is getting a reading, okay? And I say this every week, it's in the description. Feel free to reach out to me. I do readings, and I do guidance readings. So it's more than just me telling you a bunch of just facts about your astrological makeup. I really, it becomes more of a coaching session where you tell me what is the insight that you're wanting to experience? What is it that you wanted to better understand about yourself? Maybe you know this, but it's still confusing, or there's still something, there's some blind spots, or you're having this challenge, you're not understanding why it keeps reoccurring. Astrologically, there's a lot that can be found in your birth chart to just give some validation, confirmation, but also there's a lot that can be seen of kind of things to consider to make improvements. Okay. So if you want to figure out where is Sagittarius in my chart, I don't understand this. You can book a free discovery call with me and we can talk just in generals. And then if you decide from there you want to do an actual guidance reading, then you can do that. Okay. So I just wanted to I didn't say that at the beginning. And I want to bring that up because I think it's important as you're listening to this. Those of you who are tuning in weekly, you're understanding that even if Sagittarius doesn't happen to sit in your sun, moon, or rising, it is a part of your life. Okay. Anyway, adventurous, I mentioned that, athletic, because again, that very active fire sign, beyond the limits. Sagittarian energy is going to push beyond this point. It's going to push, okay? Because it's fire, it's very activated. And again, it wants to understand. So, a lot of times, to have a full sense of understanding, you might push the limits a little bit more until you get that understanding, okay? Very driven energy, extremely driven energy, very eager, very enthusiastic, energetic, expansive, free, needs a lot of freedom. Okay. Most fire signs are of that, but definitely Sag is probably the one that, where we get that sense of freedom and free bird and let's just go fly away. That's a very Sag energy, Sagittarius energy. Fun, very buoyant, like I said, positive, and even funny. You might find, that is where we're getting kind of the lightheartedness from the Sag energy. So all these wonderful things, right? Such positivity. What could be the negative? What could be, and I don't like saying the negative, but what could be the low frequency? Well, with all of this, there can be a tendency for Sagittarian energy to be rather blunt and to the point. Okay. It can also have a more boisterous. Now, remember, I told you my Mercury is Sag. So for all of y'all that kind of say, "Oh, Kenny, you can be kind of outspoken sometimes," blame it on the Sag Mercury. Blame it on that. I promise you. Blame it on that all day. I promise. My rising Cancer tries to calm it down, but Sag has to be careful with his brashness and its kind of blunt, kind of getting to the point because it's very activated again. Remember, and it pushes the limits and it's driven and it's eager, and so it can come across as feeling very blunt. Okay, because a lot of times it's not that passive aggressive. It's not going to go around the corner. It's right there. Okay, right there for you. Busybody can be a little too busybody. Has to be careful in a low frequency with that bluntness can turn into bullying, right? If it's pushing it too far. So I have to be very careful with that. Have to be careful not to be too careless because again, it's not always interested with all the details. So there can be some careless activity. Can be a little chatty, little, I'm attempting to move through that. I'm actually very different in that now, but in the past, can be dismissive to others' beliefs and opinions. And the reason why is because the Sagittarian energy is always on such a quest to fully understand that, and it feels as though I have understanding. So now if somebody else comes along and says kind of their belief or opinion, it's like, okay, that's fine, but I have understanding, right? So it has to be very careful not to get into a dismissive energy over someone else's beliefs and opinions just because it may not match their own. Okay. Can have a kind of escapist energy because it wants that freedom. It wants wants that adventure. So it has to be careful not to escape reality and understand that, reality is here. Come back. Exaggeration. That's that Jupiter energy again. And it may, the tendency to, say something in a more exaggerated form. Again, that's very representative of that Jupiter expansive. But again, if we're in a lower frequency, it doesn't serve us, right? Because it's looking for the excess. It can be excessive, extravagant, fidgety, even. Um, and has to be careful not to be too misguided, because again, if it has this broad perspective and feels like, okay, no, I understand it as such, but it's not all the way with all the details and all the other factors, it could be a more misguided energy. So it has to be very careful. One of the other things that Sag energy has to be careful for, because it wants the adventure, it wants the freedom, is never feeling a sense of peace, never feeling a sense of being satisfied. Okay, because it's always seeking kind of the next adventure. It can have a very impulsive energy as a result of that. So, it's going to be important when I get into this self care, things to think of, because otherwise you'll go into this never at peace, always looking for something more, doing things from a not fully informed space. Can overestimate, because again, it has this high achieving and I want to experience. And so, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. And I've now overestimated everything. Hello, Kenya. Hello. I'm working on it. I'm working so hard, so hard. And then you can get into that overachieving, and then just the overdoing. Okay. And to settle the Sagittarian energy can feel very confining, right? Because it's wanting to get it out. It's mutable energy. But it's important, those who have Sag as a very prominent part of their chart, it's important, go look at your groundedness. Like my moon is Capricorn, so that does help a lot to ground me with some of my Sagittarian when I get into maybe a lower frequency of that. This is the thing, you want to be looking at, when you have something that's kind of going, and more scattered, your air energy may cause that to be even more kind of that. So you have to look, okay, what's going to ground me a little bit? The water can really kind of release and relieve, right? But the ground can kind of ground some of that. So those are things to think about. Those are things that in the guided readings that I do to help people kind of figure out, where can we look in your chart to kind of settle some of this energy so that it's more comfortable for you. Okay. All right. Self-care. Let's get into it. What else can we do? What else can we do? So again, Sagittarian, you're known for that adventurous, optimistic, free-spirited nature. So we've got to do self-care practices that focus on activities that give you that sense of freedom, exploring, and that really positive energy. Okay. So adventure and exploration is all day, all night. Okay. All day, all night, gonna be good for the Sagittarius. Okay. So going to new places, I always tell Sagittarians, if you are feeling very mundane or stuck, and it's really impacting your mental health, please, you are one sign where I say, go consider a trip, a travel. And I'm not saying it has to be all the way to, Bora Bora, but even if it's to the mountains in your state, or to the lake a mile away, or whatever, but go explore. That excitement and that discovery will allow a lot of grounding and balance for the Sagittarian energy. And so along with that, outdoor activities really lend itself to that. Okay. So hiking and camping, and spending time in open natural spaces. Again, the outdoors can be very rejuvenating for Sagittarian energy. And physical activity and exercise itself, I find that anybody with a fire sign, that physical and physical, like really tangible physical activity and exercise, is an excellent way of self-care to get the energy out, to get the sense of feeling free with your body out as well. Okay. Jogging, yoga, just releasing. You'll have the ability to release some of this energy and not have it trapped by doing your movement. Okay. I have travel next, but I've already told you travel. Yes, travel, immerse yourself. Okay. But again, we all have Sagittarian in us. And so it's important to find, where is that in your chart? Because then that can better help you understand what you may need to give yourself more of the exploration. I mentioned just to you, it's in the area of my chart that deals with daily life. I need some adventure. Like travel for me, living in different spaces, that's not unjarring for me. That in fact is very good self-care for me. Having that multiplicity in that way actually feels very, if it's a for me. I was telling someone that, yeah, I kind of want to live maybe part of the year over here, part of the year over there, part of the year over here, and then kind of rotate that. And the person's like, whoa, that's a lot. I'm like, yeah, I get, does that seem like a lot? Doesn't to me, seems perfect. So again, really understanding kind of where this shows up for you in your life. Is that in relationships? Does that shows up for you? Is it in, that would be your seventh house? Does it show up in your 10th house, which is career? Is that where you're really more so needing that? Maybe you don't know relationships. Nah, we need stable, sit right here versus career. I need to change. I need to be outside I need a job that's making me really active. I can't just sit in a cubicle. Okay. Um, Learning and education. Sag is definitely because what learning does in terms of allows the achievement, allows the exploration, allows the understanding. So learning, taking classes, feeling a sense of, getting certified here, and I'm going to take another class over here. That's actually that's a way of doing self-care for Sagittarian energy. So that's another thing that a lot of times I will propose to Sagittarians is consider taking a class, consider taking, maybe you're not getting a whole degree, but it's not surprising when Sagittarius have a bunch of degrees and a bunch of, experiences, because them and Geminis, they both have that tendency to want to experience learning in a certain kind of way. And for Sag, that is very grounding because you're exploring new thoughts. I'm doing positive affirmations, philosophical reflection, because again, that goes back again to that teaching and that understanding, and for it to have that bigger picture as opposed to those small minutia things. That's a very, visionary kind of way to go about it, right? Socializing and connecting is very big for the Sagittarius energy. That social connection is very uplifting, which gives that buoyant, positive energy that it seeks. Laughter and humor, because I mentioned it having that energy of wanting to have fun and being funny. Spiritual exploration, definitely. I find that a lot of people who have strong Sagittarius placements have pretty active, very active belief systems and spiritual practices, because again, what is that about? Well, if you have a certain ritual or practices or beliefs and you're learning all the different aspects of that, you're getting understanding, right? You're getting greater understanding of why we're here, what this is about. And it also allows you to better understand various perspectives, which is another big part of Sagittarian energy. Freedom of expression, so creativity outlets like art and music are always, they're good for all the signs to some degree. But again, this allows Sagittarians to share their perspective in unique ways. Okay. Share kind of what they want to be, again, because it wants to share. It's mutable energy. It wants to get it out there. It doesn't want to just hold it and then, it wants to get it out there. Mindfulness and meditation types of retreats, because the retreat will allow for the travel component, but the mindfulness will allow things to create a little bit of balance and get more introspective and do that self-discovery. Okay. Positive challenges, doing those different kind of challenges that increase your level of positivity. And music and dance, I've already kind of said this, but again, what music allows is it gives the movement, which I mentioned before about being really important. It has the ability to lend itself to dance, but it also has the ability to be very inspiring, right? And to share these kind of artistical thoughts and beliefs around things. So another really positive space. So really, again, and I'll just kind of read this out loud, tailoring self-care practices to align with Sagittarius energy allows individuals to embrace their adventurous spirit, maintain optimism, and nurture their well-being through activities that align with their free-spirited nature. Okay? Super duper important. So lots of positive kind of energy that the Sag gives us. We all have it. It's important. Go find it in your chart. If you don't know anything about what you mean about go find it, I don't understand that, but I'm very interested, then just go to findingyourvoiceafter40.com/services and you can book an actual session reading. I call it a guidance reading, or you can do a free discovery call if you just want to kind of get a little bit more details before. Okay. All right. Last thing before we tap off out of here, our question for the day. Can astrology really predict the future? Well, maybe. So this is the thing that's happening when you hear there's even a terminology called predictive, or a practice called predictive astrology. All that really is doing, there's a part of astrology called transits, and I've mentioned this before in some previous videos, but transits are just basically how the planets are moving through the different signs, okay? Moving through. And depending on how they're moving, what degree they're at, and so forth, energetically, that typically forecasts the possibility or propensity of certain things to potentially happen. Okay. But that doesn't equal, oh, and that's it. And we're done. No, it's just setting up conditions that are kind of ripe for that, because energetically, every planet, like I'm just describing all these things to you, if we are noticing that certain things are going through Sag, okay, so like Mercury being in Sagittarius, then you're going to be able to predict there's probably going to be a little bit more of a scattered maybe kind of energy, maybe more positive, but on the lower frequency has to be careful, that it's not all over the place and being impulsive, but you may feel a more of that kind of energy. Again, did I predict the future? No. I don't know the details. You have control of your life, okay? And you choose. Now, we can get into, I'm not going to get into all the different types of religion and how we kind of co-create, but we are co-creating, right? And so this is why I believe it's so important to understand just your basic chart and to understand the basics of astrology, because it allows you to better understand, yes, when we are in certain transits, when the full moon is coming. If we have a better understanding of some potential energy that may kind of exist, all it's doing, again, if they say it's going to rain outside, it doesn't mean, oh, that means it's going to be, a slippery road that you're going to slide off on no, maybe I know, but now it's going to rain. So now okay, well, I'm going to need to drive a little bit slower. I'm probably going to have to leave a little bit early. Okay, I need to make sure if I want my hair to be down, I don't want to be frizzy, then I'm going to need to make sure. So you go through all the things you need to do, right? To prepare so that you're prepared for the rain. So astrology, while it may be able to predict a propensity or a tendency that could potentially, be energetically a certain way, how you will experience that varies a lot. It varies a lot. And so I think it's just always important to remember that astrology is never telling you, oh, this is what's going to happen in your life. You may say, wow, that happened just like that. And yes, that could happen, but it's not predictive in that kind of way. It's not so literal. It's more of energetically, this is the energy that's happening. So how can you work with the energy to make things as impactful and, grounded for you as you can? Okay. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight on that question. If you have any other questions, make sure you put it in the comments or email info@findingyourvoiceafter40.com. All of that is in the description and we'll put it up there. So next week, we're going into Capricorn. I like Capricorn. And I'm going to tell why next week, why I like it so much. I already gave a clue why I liked it. I mentioned something about Capricorn, but there's more that I like about Capricorn. And if you want to hear that more, come back. In the meantime, make sure you take good care of yourself, replay this, share this, like this, do all the things to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, particularly my Sages who are the Sagittarius with their sun, moon, or their rising. All right. We'll be back next Sunday. You guys take care. Bye.